What's up, money bros? Today we're focusing on gold. No, not the gold chains or even a golden yacht, but we're really gonna dig deep. Yes, pun intended. I know. The price of gold is near an all-time high. Gold is up more than 13% within 1 year. Since we've gone totally off the gold standard since 1971, people have started holding gold as a hedge against inflation. If you melted down every ounce of gold ever mined in human history and stacked it into one giant cube, it would fit neatly inside Washington, D.C., about 70 feet tall on each side. You'd stand there, staring at it, squint a little, and probably say, "Wait, that's it?" My name is Bob. Hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss out. I have loads of information that can save you tons of money. And this is golden advice. Ha! Pun intended, of course. This modest-looking cube represents empires rising and falling, wars being fought, kings losing their minds, and entire economic systems being built, broken, and rebuilt. For something that has caused so much drama, the supply is shockingly small. But that's exactly the magic trick. Gold isn't powerful because it feeds you, clothes you, or keeps you warm. It's powerful because humanity collectively looked at a shiny yellow rock and said, "Yeah, this feels permanent." And when currencies wobble, governments fumble, and markets start behaving like caffeinated squirrels, our brains do what they've always done. They panic quietly and reach backward to the one thing that survived every failed money experiment we've ever tried: the physics of permanence. Gold didn't even originate on Earth. It crash-landed here on asteroids, cosmic debris from exploding stars, carrying atoms so dense their electrons zip around at nearly the speed of light. That weird atomic behavior absorbs blue light and reflects yellow and red, which is why gold glows like it's permanently lit by sunset. No other metal quite pulls this off. For billions of years, gold just chilled in Earth's crust, minding its business, until erosion exposed it in riverbeds. Early humans spotted it and immediately noticed something suspicious. It didn't rust, rot, or crumble. You could bend it, shape it, and pass it down generations without it falling apart. Dense, durable, and weirdly eternal. From that moment on, humans were hooked. Civilizations across the planet, completely independent of one another, fell under gold's spell. The Inca called it the sweat of the sun. Chinese emperors literally ate it, hoping immortality was included. King Solomon plated his temple in it. Greek artisans molded it into gods. Gold became the universal language of divinity, power, and forever. It didn't solve hunger or build houses, but it meant something. And meaning, it turns out, is the real engine of economic value. The Great Psychological Leap. Early money made sense. Cattle, barley, salt, stuff you actually needed to survive. A cow could walk itself to market, feed your family, and reproduce. Great return on investment. But cows are inconvenient. They're expensive to keep. They're hard to divide. You can't Venmo half a cow. So humanity made a bold, slightly unhinged mental leap. We stopped valuing money for what it does and started valuing it for what we believe. Gold nailed the logistics: portable, divisible, durable, rare but not too rare. But its real power wasn't technical, it was psychological. Gold became valuable because everyone agreed it was valuable. One person believing that is an opinion. Millions believing it at the same time turns shiny metal into economic infrastructure. Money stopped being about survival and became about faith. The global economy is basically a group project held together by mutual agreement and vibes. The abstraction ladder. Gold eventually became inconvenient. It was heavy, easy to steal, hard to scale. So banks stored it and handed out paper IOUs. As long as people trusted the banks, the system worked. By the early 1900s, the U.S. ran on the gold standard. Every $20 bill equaled 1 ounce of gold somewhere in a vault. Stable? Yes. Flexible? Absolutely not. When panic hit and everyone demanded their gold back at once, things got awkward fast. Enter the Federal Reserve in 1913, created to manage money, prevent panics, and smooth things out. But the Fed was still chained to gold. When the Great Depression hit, they couldn't print money freely without risking a gold run. So instead of easing conditions, they tightened them. They protected gold. The economy collapsed. Most historians agree the gold standard didn't cause the depression, but it definitely made it worse. The final breakup. In 1933, FDR made a move so bold it still makes economists sweat. He ordered Americans to turn in their gold in exchange for paper dollars. Money was officially cut loose from metal. Welcome to fiat currency, money backed by nothing but government decree and public confidence. Now, belief wasn't in gold's permanence, it was in institutional competence. After World War II, the U.S. tried one last compromise at Bretton Woods. The dollar became the world's reserve currency, redeemable for gold at $35 an ounce. That promise didn't last. Too many dollars, not enough gold. France literally sent a warship to collect. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. Full abstraction achieved. Money was now faith, geopolitics, and vibes, held together by trust and aircraft carriers. So why are we running back? Fast forward to 2026. Gold prices surge, central banks hoard bars, investors panic buy metals. Florida flirts with gold as legal tender again. Why? Because trust cracks. Governments never truly abandoned gold. They just shoved it into vaults just in case. Fort Knox, Manhattan bedrock, emergency belief insurance. Political chaos, inflation anxiety, currency games, and institutional finger-pointing weaken the fragile agreement holding fiat together. When belief starts wobbling, people climb back down the abstraction ladder, away from promises, policies, and predictions, and back to the metal. The permanence instinct. Bitcoin fans call it digital gold, hoping algorithms can replace atomic density. Maybe they're right, but gold never needed a white paper. It never promised returns. It never crashed from a tweet. It just exists. When systems feel imaginary, gold feels real, heavy, silent, unimpressed. It doesn't require you to believe in anyone's competence, vision, or honesty. It doesn't crash when the grid goes down or get hacked when passwords leak. It doesn't need electricity, passwords, or trust in leadership competence. It just sits there, dense and inert, the same atoms that arrived on asteroids 4 billion years ago. In uncertain times, the human brain doesn't search for the smartest answer, it searches for the safest feeling. And no amount of economic sophistication can fully override that primal instinct. We are still the same creatures who saw gold glinting in riverbeds and felt its permanence deep in our bones. That's not a bug in human psychology, it's a feature that kept us alive for millennia. Gold will always remain in the background, the psychological fallback, the emergency exit when belief systems fail. Not because it's rational, but because when everything else feels like a collective hallucination, gold feels like the one thing that can't betray us. It has already survived every empire that ever rose and fell. It will outlast every currency we invent next. The cube in Washington, D.C. isn't growing. There's no more gold being forged in stars and delivered via asteroid. What exists is all we'll ever have. And maybe that's why after all these centuries, after all our innovations in abstract finance, we keep coming back to the same shiny, mostly useless metal that does nothing except remind us what permanence looks like in a world built entirely on faith. Despite all of these mental leaps and these vast abstractions of economic value, here we are turning back to gold. First off, foreign governments never got rid of their gold. The U.S. still has huge stores of thousands and thousands of tons of gold in Fort Knox and other facilities, and so do a lot of other countries. A lot of countries store their gold in New York City in this gold reserve that is buried like 50 feet into the bedrock of Manhattan, and it just sort of sits there gathering dust, being a little reserve, a just-in-case type of thing.